Blessed love and peace. We sharing a wee bit of ditty, a brief joint, in the margins, on the front lines, on the verge of Shabbat, after Juma, second day of Tishrei, in the midst of the high holy days, right? And in the midst of Navaratri and the approach of Diwali and all that jazz. This is the brief joint we share for the moment. It's about the game, the world game, and post-cosmopolitan warfare. It's comparatively simple, but it's also appropriate. It's beneficial to be mindful of. And the consideration is that amidst all the binaries, all the divisions, the so-called divisions between races and religiosities and such, to recognize this, first of all, just the nature of like life. There's two basic paradigms. One is the wilderness and the other is Babylon. One is the wilderness, the other is the city. And so in the paradigm of the wilderness, it's basically two things: killing and quiet. That's it. Predators and prey or otherwise. There's no capturing. There's no slave. It's like it's kill or be killed situation, unless one is an herbivore, which is like just try to do one's best to stay out the way. That's the wilderness. People in the wilderness. That's what it is. And because it's that severe, I mean, for the most part, to be honest, the majority of the time it's quiet. But at the same time, at any moment, it can be killed. And it's cutthroat. It's no mercy. That's the law of the jungle. That's it. The wilderness, whether it's hot, cold, or whatever. Mountain, valleys, or whatever. Kill and quiet. The nature of the city is one of continual, constant conquering, conquest. The whole advent of the city is a way of working together to protect oneself against the severity of the wilderness. So there's advantages in that. However, in that social construct, it is a continual process. It does not stop. It is a constant process of conquest, of conquering, of being the top. That notion of being a top dog in itself is a misnomer, particularly for men saying that, because the top dog is a woman. But being the top cat, it's always that's the continual process. So there is no quiet. There are ebbs and flows, but it's a systemic, continual process of conquest, and people align themselves accordingly. So that's the nature of the city. That's the nature of Babylon. That's the nature of civilization. Continual, constant process of conquest. So when we have ethnic groups, when we have religious communities, and additionally, each one is entrenched within a continual process of conquest. Now, a lot of the propaganda is conquest against each other and divisiveness, and additionally. However, the beneficial thing to recognize is that particularly today, amidst all the hyper migrations, the interrelatedness, the interdependence about technology, innovation, and continuing know-how that kinfolk just somehow ain't going to learn themselves. There's a continual need for each other, and because of that, all these feigned binaries of us versus them, whether it's ethnic, religious, or similarly, it's a falsity. There is genuine vitriol and animosity and antagonism that ain't going to change. However, it's beneficial. This is the beneficial thing to recognize. What it becomes is a mutually collusive methodology of culling, whereby the groups are culling the unproductive, the stragglers within the other's community, and each one's own community leaves those stragglers in a vulnerable position to be got by the other community, and it's a mutually collusive, cooperative process. So when we look at the wilderness and we talk about like quiet and killing, it might seem like a tenacious thing, but by and large, like the healthy zebra outrun the lions and outrun the hyenas and outrun the cheetah. And generally speaking, The lions and the cheetahs and the hyenas and all the other predators feed off the older and the weaker. And it becomes a process, peace and blessings. It becomes a process of naturally culling the herd from those stragglers. That's the way the world. That's the way the wild works, and the way the city works, the way civilization works, is that people who belong to a particular community, regardless of what it is, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Baha'i, Sikh, Native, or otherwise, kinfolk who are stragglers, it's difficult to cull one's own. And stay and keep that fabric of unity and solidarity within one's thing. So the methodology, effectively, particularly at this point, is kinfolk leaving the stragglers, those who are perceived as non-productive, those who are perceived as consuming too much compared to how much people are contributing, those who are perceived as perhaps challenges to authority within any particular community, or aren't abiding by the rote hierarchies or whatever else within any particular community, and are perceived as a threat, an intra-threat, set tripping and otherwise, leave them vulnerable for the hostilities and aggressions and enslavements and otherwise entrapments from a competitive gang. That's what it is. It's gangsterism. So that's the consideration. So the warfare that is witnessed today between nations, the warfare that is propagandized between religiosities, and additionally, recognize who the casualties are. The casualties on either side are predetermined, are already pre-calculated. And some things go beyond people's pre-calculations, because that's the nature and the fallacy of calculation itself. But by and large, these are pre-estimated mathematics, for lack of a better word. So point being is to be mindful of that, and for those who find themselves on those borderlands or whatever else, to be mindful of that. One of the solutions is being modest about what we consume, not being a big consumer within whatever particular community one is living in, not to be a big spender, not to be depending upon the basically consuming what one needs only, and not being an excessive consumer. And regardless of what one's allegiances and standings and anything, because it can be anybody, to be honest. Anybody within the phenomenon of set tripping, anybody can be identified as a target. Again, whether it's somebody who's being comparatively unproductive, or if it's somebody who's perceived as a rival for authority and ascension within the hierarchy of any particular cartel, syndicate, or whatever else. So part of the solution is being modest in one's consumption, being purposeful. Further solutions is, again, being ethical, being honest, knowing what the rules are within one's community traditionally, and abiding by those authorities, and always having that knowledge to fall back on to explain one's behavior. So rather than just relying upon allegiance with other people, leaders or top dogs or top cats or whatever else, practicing the ethics, practicing the discipline, practicing the rituals, practicing the language within one's tradition, that in and of itself is an authority beyond the temporal, earthly calculations and mathematics of people's. So whatever the religion is, whatever ethnicity is, to steep oneself within that, to be further knowledgeable, to study that on one's own, to go to the study groups, and additionally, so that's part of the solution. And again, consuming the basic necessities, not splurging, and not getting caught up in the conspicuous consumption game, not getting caught up in keeping up with the Joneses and everything else like that. Because that's targeting even within one's own community, for being left high and dry in one way or another. So, and again, just the basic ethics that are taught within one's own community, and living that thoroughly, and not relying upon strategies, not relying upon leadership or otherwise. Peace and blessings, brother. And relying upon the authority that exists within the traditional teachings, the authority that exists within the traditional ethics, and the rituals, the stories, the songs, and the literacy of one's own culture. That's part of the solution. Ain't no guarantees in the game, and even that knowledge can be perceived as a threat and undermining the strangleholds of power and control within any particular community. But at the same time, peace and blessings. But at the same time, that knowledge has an authority in and of itself. It has a value in and of itself. And again, it's not a matter of flexing, saying, "Oh, I got this, I'm this, that." No, it's a matter of knowing that and being solid with that and sharing that. So the further one's ambitions are, that's targeting. The further one's trying to take over, that's targeting. So anyways, be mindful of that. So when you see the Israeli-Palestine, when you see the black-white, when you see this supremacist and that supremacist, whatever that is, to recognize, like, by and large, the cats ain't getting each other. Cats are leaving themselves vulnerable, including Palestine. The nature of the game is leveled from the streets to the bombs, but even further into like the basic middle ground, middle class experience. So in each of these respects, there's that susceptibility of kinfolk being left high and dry and otherwise. So anyways, that's the basic of what to share at the moment, as we are on the verge of abrogating the very proclamation we are sharing at the moment in terms of abiding by the practices and the rituals and ethics. Peace and blessings, brother.
Hey, peace and blessings. Right, Eric Metcalf, you told me about Eric
Metcalf.
Metcalf.
How did that game go?
I believe we won that day.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it was a good day.
Did you look up that clip?
I did.
You saw it.
I saw it.
Did I lie? Did I lie?
No, you did not lie.
Okay.
As soon as I saw it,
Yo, that's classic. It's classic, brethren. All right, peace and blessings to you.
Have a good one, man.
You too. So anyways, that's what we've got to share for this moment. And again, I mean, the example of His Majesty Haile Selassie I is a very strong example of this discipline, particularly when being faced with death. Not just one's own death, but the death of the lives that are in charge to one's care and one's sovereignty. And being stoic, not tripping, not selling out, not giving up, but staying focused, staying concentrated, recognizing what the priorities are, staying disciplined, keeping faith, believing in God, believing in a higher power, and staying true to that as much as possible, and knowing that selling out ain't even a thing. Like this, it's not even temptation. When one knows one's deen, when one knows one's purpose in this life, the riches mean nothing. All that other trappings mean nothing. So, again, I mean, it's the autobiography is a richness of this past century, for the archives, for the global archives. So, and Her Majesty Wise Zahraman, in perfect balance with His Majesty, provide beneficial guidance along those lines. So that's what we got to share with this moment. All things to praise the Most High Elohim. Blessed love and peace of Rastafari.